players playing a mirror. This is a 73 card mirror. They are both Roanokeers, or whatever you call someone from Roanoke. I'm not exactly sure what that would be. And they work together all the time on Magic these days. And the difference between these two lists, Todd Anderson has 1 Dissipate and 1 Counterflux. Pardon me, that's Jerry Thompson. Todd has 2 Counterflux, 0 Dissipate. And in the board, Todd has an extra Dispel. And the question that's going to be is, will that influence things? Jerry has an extra Counterflux in the board. In underway, you see a Runechanter's Pike and an Augur of Bolas facing off against an Augur of Bolas. And Jerry's like, see, I got some land.
Yeah, see, Todd misses his 3rd land drop. Todd was on the play this game. And Jerry is able to hit his land drop, shows Todd 3 as Todd peels a Sulphur Falls. So Todd right back in the game, or at least trying to get right back into it. So we see some cards in these guys' hands. These two players are playing the blue-white-red flash deck that Jerry has been playing for the past about a month, I would say. He came off a Grand Prix top 8 with blue-white flash and switched into splashing red in San Antonio, where I stayed with him at the tournament, where he got 10th place, and he's been on that deck ever since. Success in the TCG 50K as well with this deck.
Yeah, he top 8'd there, and you can see that he has convinced Todd Anderson to come on board with the same list. They're both playing the exact same list, well, roughly the same lists together in both the Standard and the Legacy.
As we see Todd cast a Thought Scour here, move the Pike over to the Augur of Bolas, able to get in for at least 3 points of damage, or Jerry probably would have blocked, but we are going to see Augur get in, Restoration Angel, immediately blink it on Jerry's main phase to dodge any counter magic, and then find himself a Think Twice. So pretty good turn for Jerry.
Jerry's play there, very smart. One thing you don't want to get is end of your turn itis. Just because you can cast something later in the game doesn't mean you have to.
You know, it's very easy for Jerry to get pretty cute there and, you know, try to bait out a counterspell or run into something, and who knows. So we see Todd Thought Scouring here, checking the count on the Runechanter's Pike, and getting the beatdowns on. Now we're going to see another Augur of Bolas. It is a miss for Todd. Todd moves 2 Snapcaster Mages and a Hallowed Fountain to the bottom.
Runechanter's Pike really changes the tenor of what your deck is doing when you're playing in this matchup. And there's only 1 in the deck. It's an incredibly important part of the fight between these two decks. Todd having it in play is a really big deal.
So we see Jerry just come across the Restoration Angel. He's going to pass back to Todd. You can see in Todd's hand there's a Think Twice for his turn, a Pillar of Flame, a Counterflux, and a Azorius Charm, among other options, as he's getting in here with both his Augur of Bolas. He definitely has quite a few options at his disposal, and he has been able to hit his land drops. It's just about now navigating things to be able to get those spells out of his hand and basically trump Jerry, as we know Jerry at least has 1 more land in his hand. And we are going to see a Think Twice here, as Jerry finds his Singleton copy of Counterflux now as well. So both players do have Counterflux, and Augur of Bolas are going to run into each other here.
That one was told to me by someone else. I was like, huh?
And see if Todd's going to make a move here or not.
Think Twice.
Okay.
Get
another land.
Get another card in the graveyard there for the Runechanter's Pike, dealing Jerry some damage. Right now, Todd is winning the race, as it were, but things change on a dime here, as we do see the Pillar of Flame.
That doesn't quite finish the job.
As with yesterday, it is my great pleasure.
Is it taking 1 right now, so it will finish the job?
Yeah, that'll take care of it because they ran into each other. It's just up to Jerry if he wants to let it resolve or not.
Yep. And Jerry does have a Counterflux in hand, I believe. There it is.
And mentors in the judge program, ladies and gentlemen, Jeff Morrow.
In the background, you can hear Ricky Hayashi announcing the Standard Open. 469 players in that Open.
So yes, I'm Jeff Morrow from California. I'll be your head judge today.
Funny to see Jerry trade a Counterflux with a Pillar of Flame. Typically not what that card is meant to be used for. It's meant to win the battle over Sphinx's Revelation. You know, it's in case you get into a counterspell war over that, or to counter a Restoration Angel, or just something just important, because it can't be countered. But at this point, Jerry feels that he needs that Augur of Bolas in play. So a little bit strange to see that trade-off between those cards.
Jerry does not attack with anything. He does not want to fall prey to 2 removal spells making Augur kill him from Todd Anderson. Or I should say only 1. And the chump block, Augur on Augur.
Then do a quick count. Make sure you have registered at least 60 cards in your main deck. And if you're playing a sideboard, you need to have 50
Sphinx,
cards.
4/3. Rewind. I'm not even going to bother to tap these lands.
So now we see Jerry draw an Azorius Charm for the turn. Jerry right now just really, he's behind right now. And as you said a little bit earlier, just the important card right now that we see between everything that these two players are doing is just the Runechanter Spike. That's the thing that's dominating the game state.
All right, players, when you keep your
Todd here pausing at the end of Jerry's turn. Decide if he wants to do any of the card draw he has. One of the dangers of tapping out too much is the risk that Jerry might use that to Sphinx's Revelation.
Yep.
Think twice from the yard for Todd. Jerry with no action. Todd untaps.
That means we take the rules pretty seriously. It also means that the
Todd draws a second Azorius Charm, plays the planes that he drew off the flashback Think Twice.
Please remember, at competitive RL, it is your responsibility to announce.
And again, Todd just taking a look at things right now. He has an Unsummon in his hand, 2 Azorius Charm. He's definitely got a lot of weapons at his disposal, as we're going to see an Azorius Charm here from Jerry, putting the Augur of Bolas on top. Just a momentary reprieve from exactly what's going on here.
And it does not feel good to do that either. I mean, that Augur, it's not something to scoff at, the ability of it to look for a little mini impulse of 3 cards when it comes into play.
Jerry does draw a Sphinx's Revelation and a Pillar of Flame, and what you're likely going to end up seeing here, Adrian, is exactly what I kind of spoke of earlier, is where you saw Jerry use a counterflux on Pillar of Flame, which is kind of just a weird trade for that card. I mean, it seemed necessary at the time, but typically what it's there for is this fight over Sphinx's Revelation, and we know that Todd has a counterflux in his hand, and that's likely what it will end up countering.
Jerry, well aware of what this fight is about, you can expect that he's going to be cautious here. I can see Todd has moved the Unsummon to the front of his hand. I mean, maybe he's thinking about unsummoning the Restoration Angel, having counterflux to make sure it doesn't come back down.
Yeah.
Going for the throat.
As we see Jerry put into play a Clifftop Retreat and just pass the turn back with a sly grin, trying to lead Todd into something he doesn't want to do.
Azo. Draw a card. There's the Augur we knew about. A land. Straight into play. 2 life lost. Is that a newfangled Hallowed Fountain?
That is.
Todd content to attempt just to kill him with the attack, force it a chump block. Jerry casts Snapcaster Mage. Todd casts Counterflux to say, no way, sir. Snapcaster will not happen. Jerry's like, okay, yeah, you're right, it won't. I'll chump block here with this guy. I think we're going to see likely a end of turn Sphinxes for 3 from Jerry Thompson.
The pairings for round 1 are now up.
Todd shows a Sphinx's Revelation from his own Augur of Bolas. Says go. Jerry knows Todd's deck list. These guys worked on it together. The only card he has to be concerned about is it Charm, and Todd does not have the mana for it.
So
3 cards.
Jerry going to get himself 3 new cards here, 4th one from his draw step. And he does find a little bit of action here. He has another Pillar of Flame. He has a Snapcaster Mage here. He does play one of the islands, and the Supreme Verdict is going to clean things up for the time being. A pretty favorable draw there for Jerry, but Jerry does know that Todd has that counterflux over there as we see him, or excuse me, that he has a Sphinx's Revelation over there from the Augur of Bolas, as you see Todd cycle an Azorius Charm.
I see Pillar, Snapcaster, Think Twice, I believe. And Jerry untaps. Restoration Angel. Now remember, Moorland Haunt, that is going to supply an endless, well, not literally endless, but a fair number of little 1/1 dorks that can pick up that pike and potentially kill Jerry. I don't have the exact count of instants and sorceries in Todd's yard, but I do believe it is if not able to kill Jerry with the pike, very close.
Yeah, very, very close.
Oh, that one die was too small, I guess.
Yeah.
Now, normally we have our spirit tokens that we have at the table over there, but apparently they've been so popular with our players that they just walk off with them.
Yeah, they just take them away.
Yep. We got the count. Here it comes. Snapcaster? There's an Is It Charm in Todd's hand.
Benjamin Payne to the main stage, please. Benjamin Payne.
Jerry is going to Azorius Charm that token away. So he's taking care of one of the many tokens that will be coming from Moorland Haunt.
Think twice, end of turn. And remember, Jerry knows that Todd has a Sphinx's Revelation in his hand. So even though he could flash back that Think Twice, it's a risky choice because it lets Todd decide to do exactly this. And Jerry knew it was there, so he just was like, I think the one card is worth it.
Now, the one nice thing here about that is by Jerry thinking twice and then Todd using the opportunity to resolve Sphinx Revelation, he has a momentary reprieve from a spirit token coming to play from Moorland Haunt.
Yeah.
So it's a weird way to say that it's a time walk for Jerry, but it does buy him a little bit of time at least.
One thing to look at here with the current cards, it is possible, if Jerry is just hungry for some cards, he could do a Restoration Angel. One line of play available is Restoration Angel after he attacks with his Snapcaster Mage, bring back Snapcaster, and either cast a Sphinx for a very small amount, or if he has a Thought Scour in his yard still, I can't tell with that glare, or a Thought Scour in his hand, get an extra little card draw that way.
So both players' hands are fairly stocked here. Both players have done a nice job of hitting their land drops. Again, the thing that this game is really coming down to is they have traded blows back and forth, is that Todd does have two of the more important cards right now in the one Runechanter's Pike, and these players are both playing just one Moorland Haunt. So Todd has drawn his singletons where Jerry has not.
For those of you who are just joining us, I'm Adrian Sullivan, and Cedric Phillips here with me. We're bringing you the best Magic coverage that you can find on the internet. This is Star City Games Live. Remember, you can join us on Twitter, #SCGEnvy. We see a fight here. Restoration Angel going to try to blink that Snapcaster Mage. Is It Charm from Todd Anderson saying no way.
So we'll see how Jerry chooses to move here. He has brought a Thought Scour to the front, and we will see Thought Scour here, targeting Todd, revealing a pillar, and an Augur of Bolas. Jerry draws a Sulphur Falls from that, and now he's going to Restoration Angel again.
Now remember, when it comes to creatures on the table, Game 1, these players have access to only one Supreme Verdict total in their main decks.
Jerry really trying to put on the pressure now here with these Restoration Angels, and by blinking this Snapcaster Mage, no, he won't get any value from it, but he will be able to keep his 2-1, and he will most importantly be able to start attacking Todd's life total, as you see a Thought Scour here from Todd targeting Jerry, hitting his Moorland Haunt and his Unsummoned, both singletons.
Now this is unusual for decks that use the graveyard in this way to target each other, but at a certain point you have enough fuel in the graveyard that what you want to do is just hope to get rid of something that is not going to be able to be accessed. A Moorland Haunt, a Runechanter's Pike.
Welcome to round 1. Good luck. Have fun. You have 50
And now we see Jerry coming across for 5 here with the Restoration Angel and a Snapcaster Mage. This would knock Todd down to 11 if he opts to take the damage, but we are going to see an Azorius Charm here from Todd, putting Restoration Angel back on top of Jerry's deck.
You know, there's a way in which this matchup is such an interesting chess match. Especially Game 1, where they both have cards that are not particularly exciting for the matchup.
The interesting thing here is that both players are able to get through their deck at a relatively quick pace. So, you know, they're going to be able to see their singletons quite a bit, as we have seen Todd draw, you know, his Moorland Haunt and his Runechanter's Pike. Jerry's Moorland Haunt just got milled via Todd's Thought Scour, but both players are able to find their one of cards very easily in this matchup, as we see Jerry cycle Azorius Charm, blink the Snapcaster Mage, because he did know the Restoration Angel was on top of his deck because of Todd's Azorius Charm. You see him flashback the Unsummoned, bounce the token, and Jerry is now safe yet again from Runechanter Pike shenanigans.
Jerry's really fighting to stay alive here. Todd Anderson, pretty full grip. Pillar of Flames, the Snapcaster, yeah, the mage, Snapcaster mage.
Now, one of the cards that Jerry does not know that Todd has is that other, Sphinx's Revelation. There was one that Todd did reveal from Augur of Bolas that Jerry has already seen, but he doesn't know that he has the other one in his hand. So we're playing a little bit of do-si-do here as we see a Restoration Angel main face here from Todd. We may see him just equip the pike to it right away, just to brick wall Jerry's attacks for the turn. Jerry draws his card, draws a Glacial Fortress to go along with those 3 Pillar of Flames. Now it's a situation of, do I want to double pillar this Restoration Angel to try to get through, or do I want to sit tight here?
And he goes with it. He goes with the double pillar, and he just, these guys know each other. He does the 2 because he knows Todd is going to let the first one resolve, and then he does the second one, and he's like, okay, now let's see if you've got that counterflux.
And we know that Todd has 2 counterfluxes in his deck list. He's already used 1. There's 1 more looming within the 60 cards, but we know at home that there's not one in his hand. We see the contents there of Sphinx's Revelation, a mountain, and an unsummon. And the unsummon is actually going to save his own angel.
And in for 6, Jerry knocks Todd down to 8.
So again, Jerry putting up a pretty good fight here, all things considered. He's still in trouble because he's always facing lethal from that Runechanter's Pike with the threat of a Moorland Spirit. But, at the same time, he can't sit back. He does need to try to get Todd dead.
If you play scared the whole game, you're just going to end up in a line of chumps just waiting to die one at a time.
Yep. And so you see Todd starting to reorganize some things. You're going to see a main face Moorland Haunt here to make a Spirit token. Likely going to see an equip of Runechanter's Pike as well. That's exactly what he's going to do there, and he does have enough mana there with 8 mana to actually still be able to cast a relevant Sphinx's Revelation, but what you see is Jerry draws Dissipate for the turn. A huge draw comes across. You see a Restoration Angel. Jerry says, I drew Dissipate. Get that out of here. You can't activate Moorland Haunt. You're down to 2, Mr. Anderson.
And, now the interesting thing is Todd can Sphinx up. And while that's going to be really huge, we are also at a point where it's possible that the deck size really does matter.
Yeah.
Now, Sphinx's Revelation does not target any players, so it's not like you can use it to kill your opponent, which is in many ways a good thing. But right here, he pushes in. How many cards is that?
He's going
10?
to be drawing he's going to be drawing 10 cards, and more importantly, gaining 10 life.
Yes.
Putting himself up to, putting himself up to 12. Jerry needs that Runechanter's Pike because he is cycling away like crazy now through his deck. You see him draw the 4th Pillar of Flame here. He can get Todd dead right now because Todd is tapped out, but he's not able to find it.
Yep. Todd back down to 6 with a crazy huge hand. Well, after the discards, 7-card hand.
Well, actually, it looks like Todd...
it was during his upkeep?
Yeah, he did it during Jerry's upkeep.
So a crazy huge hand.
Yep. So all the options are at his disposal right now. He doesn't have to discard just yet, but he will be able to play a lot of these cards right now. Likely to discard just some lands that don't matter at this point. Snapcaster Mage, a very good start.
Snapcaster and Verdict.
Yeah, you already see Jerry putting the creatures in the graveyard. Verdict.
Boom.
Verdict takes care of the guys.
Creates another creature for Todd to be able to reanimate with, or I should get the spirit of with Moorland Haunt. Todd discards Jerry off the top. Augur of Bolas.
Todd says that's fine.
With Jerry scoops it on up.
So Todd Anderson, your current reigning and defending Invitational champion, up a game right now against Jerry Thompson. Good pals, playing, as you said, a 73-card mirror match.
Yeah. And the difference is, once again, game 1, Todd Anderson has 2 Counterflux versus Jerry Thompson's 1 Counterflux, 1 Dissipate. And in the sideboard, Todd Anderson has 2 Dispel versus Jerry Thompson's 1 Dispel, 1 Counterflux.
And speaking of those counterspells, I think they're both going to be joining us this particular matchup.
Yeah.
I mean, I fully expect Dispel to come in. I expect Counterflux to come in. Jerry has a Negate in his sideboard as well. I expect those 3 cards to join us. And I know that Jerry is extremely fond of Jace Memory Adept, and it's a card that we have seen some this weekend attacking libraries, especially highlighted very well by Christian Valenti in one of his matches earlier yesterday, milling out a Naya mid-range deck when he was playing blue-white-red mid-range. So I expect those to come in as well as a different angle of attack. There's also a chance that Rest in Peace comes in for Jerry here. They have one copy in their sideboard. It would be interesting to see if that will join us. 2 Oblivion Rings potentially, but I do not foresee Izzet Static Caster to be joining us.
Here's the interesting thing about this sideboard. There are 2 cards that I don't see coming in for either of these players. That's 2 Grafdigger's Cage.
Yeah.
But other than that, there is a, we'll call it a Patrick Chapin-esque possibility of people trying to next level each other.
Sure.
They both have played this deck a lot. They've probably played specifically against each other a lot. Izzet Static Caster, not a great card at all in this matchup, but it's also one of those things that you can use to, shoot down a whole slew of Moorland Haunts in one fell swoop. It's a body that can carry a pike. Not a card that you would think of as at all optimal, but if you're in the next level game, you bested my giant, so clearly you're a strong man, but you would have known I would have known this, so, once you get into that game, I could easily see things going down so deep that maybe one Static Caster comes in. I personally wouldn't do it, but when you play someone else so much, you start playing the player.
Yeah.
And these other 13 cards, whether it's the Counter Magic, the Supreme Verdict, the O-Ring, the Rest in Peace, the Jace Memory Adept, some most likely 0, but I could see a small non-zero number of Static Casters. There's reasons for all of them. And right there is, I think, what's going to happen between these 2 players is you're going to see them trying to play the other player.
Yeah. And I think that's definitely because these two guys, do live near each other. They test together. They provide content for Star City. They're very, very familiar with each other, of course. So, yeah, we could get into that leveling game of, yeah, man, I brought in 2 Static Casters because I know that you're trying to do this, and I know exactly what you're going to try to do, so I'm going to try to level you. And Todd might flip the switch and say, well, I have 4 Static Casters. What do you think about that, Jerry? Something deranged could happen. That's kind of what makes the game inside the game very interesting when you're playing Magic.
Now, on the face of it, if we're just talking about not any of this next leveling stuff, Static Caster, stay on the bench.
Yeah, I don't love it. There are some applications here with Static Caster, some very interesting ones, but being able to take care of Snapcaster Mage, being able to take care of Moorland Haunt tokens. But again, I'm just not in love with that card coming in here.
I'm not either. I'm not either. I don't want to communicate that at all. I just do think that this is one of those situations where, if it was Patrick Chapin sitting down, I'm sure that he would work some kind of next level in, even on a 73 card mirror, and then be like, aha, TM.
Yeah, I bet you did not see that coming. But we will see exactly how these players do choose to sideboard. I know that Jerry, in matchups that are kind of grindy and long like this, as we saw a very long game 1, he sometimes favors to draw first. So, it'll be interesting to see if he chooses to do that or if he'd rather just be on the play.
You know what? I actually think that this might be one of the very few matches of Magic where I would be very comfortable with a player choosing to draw. Yeah. That is almost never the case in Constructed Magic.
As we see, Jerry is taking a mulligan down here. Jerry did choose to play, however, but I've definitely seen instances, and he even told me when he was playing at the TCG 50K, that there was a match where he did choose to draw. Yeah. I think it was against a Bant control deck where he said, hey, these games are going to go long anyway. No matter what I do, these games are going to go very, very long, so I'll take that extra card. Especially at the risk of mulliganing down to 6. Like, if he does mulligan down to 6, he can kind of undo that mulligan by being on the draw as well, so... One
of my favorite moments in kind of the mulligan discussion, I believe it was my friend Zach Hill, who was talking about on air for a Pro Tour, like, oh yeah, Magic Online, we ran the data, and we actually found out that it was basically almost so close to 50-50 on player draw with who won, it doesn't matter.
Sure.
And whoever he was sitting with was like, so did you split limited and constructed or what? And Zach was like, oh, oops. I know that I've done a lot of record keeping ever since Worlds 2 years ago, and there is generally across the board, every matchup, every deck, generally on average of about plus 8 to 12% for play. That's by game.
As we see, Jerry has found a 6-card hand to keep. Todd has kept his 7. We are underway here with both players playing some pretty lands, and Jerry leads out with an island as well.
If we think about the character of that last game, how many cards did Jerry throw away just to stay alive because of that Runechanter's Pike?
Yeah, I mean, quite a few. I mean, the other card that he needed to deal with that was causing the other issue was the Moorland Haunt. That was just creating a steady stream of creatures for that pike that you spoke of. And Jerry, as you guys may have seen in his hand, did draw his Moorland Haunt this game. So we're going to see a Snapcaster Mage. We're going right for Todd with the milling and drawing himself a card.
Such an interesting thing where it actually can come down to that aspect, such that you'll fuel someone's graveyard for them.
Yeah. Because milling the opponent out is very realistic in this matchup.
Yeah.
We saw large Sphinx's Revelations. We see a lot of cantripping with Think Twice and Thought Scour. It's very realistic for it to become a battle of decks, especially when we know these players have Jace Memory Adept in their sideboard.
And we see discard of a thought, Think Twice from Todd Anderson after he end of turn Think Twices. To my mind, that actually is a small little error. Actually, you can hang on to that Think Twice for later. You don't need to use it right then. I'm talking about the first Think Twice that was flashed back after it was put into the graveyard by the Thought Scour.
Sure. Now we see Jerry having no problem hitting his land drops right now, as we're going to see a Snapcaster Mage here from Todd. We'll see what he's going to choose to flash back. The problem is that it seems like he does just have a lot of lands in his hand, but we do see in Jerry's hand now, we see a Restoration Angel, we see a Jace Memory Adept, and we see lands. So Jerry just trying to get in through that window.
And Jerry allows the trade. This does make the Think Twice cost only 2. You can see Todd is, up until that draw where he paid 2 life, he was choking on blue. He only had 2 blue sources, now up to 3 blue sources. Resto, EOT, Restoration Angel. Does it draw out the rewind? And Todd actually deigns to tap it this time, lest Jerry counter it with a negate or some such. And while Jerry's tapped down like that, Todd takes the opportunity to Sphinx's Revelations for 3.
So Todd gets 3 new cards. He does gain 3 more life. Discards a Supreme Verdict. Jerry throws the Sphinx Revelation back, and Jerry draws
Counterflux.
Now Jerry does have the option here of slamming down Jace Memory Adept. It's going to be interesting because he does have the option to play it, but he's going to leave himself with his shields down because he's only going to have 7 mana in play, so he won't be able to defend himself with Counterflux. As we do see Jace Memory Adept here.
And he goes, oh my god, mill 1 to draw the card, and he hits the only Runechanter's Pike in Todd's deck. That was pretty good. And I believe he drew a Jace off of that.
He did.
That was a very, very fortunate +1 on the Jace. And Todd has his own Jace. Jace is the Jace.
Doesn't play a land, so now Jerry draws an Augur of Bolas.
And he can actually go Jace with Counterflux backup now.
Yep.
Boom.
And that's
what
we're
going to see the 10 or are we going to see the 1? It's the 10.
Now this is interesting because, okay, Jerry rearranges his mana on how he wants to cast that.
He's like,
because he almost made a hiccup there where he didn't have Counterflux available.
He goes to the dome, as you said yesterday, with Jace Memory Adept.
Yeah, this is attacking your opponent. It's just attacking him in a different way.
Yep. Lose 3 life. We see Counterflux, Supreme Verdict, Sphinx's Revelation, Oblivion Ring. He's going to start with the Oblivion Ring, which is going to draw that Counterflux. And then we're going to see if Todd has anything else.
And this is one of the reasons that these players have favored, as we see in Augur Bolas, Counterflux over Dissipate. Just being on counterballs, we see Restoration Angel here from Todd threatening to start attacking that Jace. We see Jerry miss with Augur of Bolas, and Jerry's going to give Todd's library a quick count. And see, he's going to decide, am I going to draw a card, or am I just going to try to get 10 more cards and then deck them that way?
I mean, he can hit twice more at this point, presuming that there are no Pillars of Flame in Todd's deck anymore, which there shouldn't be, I don't think. But he can also draw a card to just try to get ahead. 24 cards is not much. 2 hits on that. That puts Todd down to 4 cards, 3 cards after the draw phase. I mean, he's very close to dead.
As we see, it's going to leave Todd with 14 cards now. Jace Memory Adept being at 4 counters still. So as you said, Restoration Angel will knock it down to 1. He will get another activation. So it's going to be difficult for Todd because, again, there are likely not any Pillar of Flames in his deck, and we did see that Jerry milled the Runechanter's Pike, so that's not out as well.
Okay, so here's going to be a swing at Jace.
And Jerry's going to make a spirit token, and he said, "Can I block?"
Attempt to block. Unsummon? No, maybe. Yes, the block works.
All right.
That seems like a concession to me.
And Jerry says, "Mill 10, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10."
Down to 3 cards in the library.
And this is part of the reason for you guys at home that you did see the thought scouring targeting Todd instead of targeting himself. This is just what ends up happening a lot in this mirror match, because again, attacking their life total is incredibly difficult because of cards like Sphinx's Revelation, and there's the many different ways that they can gain life and deal with creatures and what have you, that you have to attack something else to be able to win, and it's easier to attack their library than actually their life total.
Particularly that Sphinx's Revelation, which is so good at buffering the life total, it really is a chunk out of that deck. And we see an Oblivion Ring from Jerry Thompson now. It draws the counterflux. Attacks for 1.
Yeah, and he decides.
Never mind.
He decides that 1 point of damage actually doesn't matter at all. You know, if he has a Snapcaster Mage or something, I would rather that not happen.
Todd
gets
draws
in.
a counterflux. We see the unsummon take care of the token. Jace dies.
So now the interesting question here, Adrian, is Todd has, I believe, 2 cards left in his deck. Can he deal Jerry 20 points of damage with 2 cards left? And we know Jerry has a Dispel and a Sulphur Falls. Jerry doesn't have anything. And he may have 3 cards. He may not have 2. We can get a correct count on that in just a second for you guys from our spotter. But it's either 3 or 2 cards left. Okay, there's 2 left.
Now there's 2, and in for 6. And I think what he's going to be looking for is whether there are Jaces in here, because Jace is actually another potential path. And
I don't know if there's enough time for that.
The 2 Jaces are there, so Todd has no Jaces left. Jerry knows Todd's deck well enough to know practically everything that Jerry has available. Or sorry, that Todd has available.
As you see Todd leafs through his hand, you see an Oblivion Ring. You see a handful of all answers. You see a hand with a Sphinx's Revelation. You see Todd come across for 6 more, knocking Jerry down to 8. Jerry draws his card. He passes. Todd draws his last card. Scoops it up.
Now, interestingly, I think it's reasonable to consider Pillar of Flames as a good sideboard out. But if that last card had been a Pillar of Flame, he could have killed Jerry.
Yeah. which is interesting. Now, we didn't expect either player to leave them in, but again, we talked about how there's a little bit of the game inside the game, one-upsmanship.
Yeah.
But yeah, Pillar of Flame not left in. There's not one. He could have also been looking for a Azorius Charm to put a Restoration Angel back on top of his deck.
Yep. And actually, worth noting, I'm pretty sure that Think Twice that Todd flashed back at the end of the turn cost him this game.
Yeah.
Because had he not done that, and I don't think that there was a reason to do it. If there's a grind happening, you want to wait till you're refilling for the 1 card. So he does it, and then on his own turn is forced to discard because he has 8 cards in hand. So there's not a reason to do it for the grind. He had the mana, he didn't need to find mana, and then later in the game, he would have been in that position with 1 more turn of attacking.
Sure. So it may have been detrimental. Now, you know, that was you know, I don't know, 10 plus minutes ago, so I don't remember what he drew off of that Think Twice. And maybe he didn't. I don't think he needed to find a land to hit a land drop at that point, so I'm not entirely sure if he was looking for something in particular at that point in time.
I think he was playing a mana efficiency game. I've got 3 mana, there's a Think Twice in my graveyard, I'm going to use it. It's something that you saw a lot happen in the Blue-Black Drownyard mirrors of about a year and a half ago, and eventually as players played it more, you just stopped doing it that way if there was going to make the 8-card hand happen.
Sure. So we see Jerry Thompson even things up here in a mirror match among friends. 73 card mirror yet again, difference in deck list. Todd Anderson has 2 Counterflux main where Jerry has 1 Counterflux, 1 Dissipate split. Todd has 2 Dispels in his sideboard where Jerry has 1 Counterflux and 1 Dispel in his sideboard. So nothing too crazy going on, just a slight difference in numbers, but you can see, especially from these games, that their game plans are directly the same in the first game, and they're very much the same in the second and third games as well, which is to protect the queen, that is Jace Memory Adept.
We see the beginning, and look at this. Mill 2 cards, says Todd.
You see a handful of land. You see a handful of lands here for Jerry, one of which is a Moorland Haunt, also an Oblivion Ring in there, so it does have a answer to Jace Memory Adept. But we need to see some more things going on as we see another Thought Scour.
Do it again. And Todd lays the Steam Vents.
dissipate the draw for Jerry's turn here. You also see it, I think, twice in his hand as well, so there will be some cantripping taking place just to ensure that both players hit their land drops, get things set up. As
Augur.
we see an Augur here.
Finds a Sphinx. Sphinx's Revelation, such a bizarre card in this matchup because there becomes a point where it just starts to potentially be a dead card.
Yeah, you know, it's so important for them to be able to find the actual cards that they need in Jace Memory Adept, but by drawing so many cards to actually find the weapons you need to win, you're attacking, you're basically dealing yourself damage. You know, as you look at both players this game, yes, they start at 20 life, but in theory, they're really starting with 60 life, being 60 cards in their deck.
In a way, you can think of it almost like a weird version of Necro.
Yeah.
Just because of the way this matchup plays out. Rewind in Todd's hand. He lays the 4th mana and passes.
Jerry draws Island for his turn. You guys see a Restoration Angel there in his hand. He decides to play his Moorland Haunt, and we see the Restoration Angel here on the end step for Todd.
That Moorland Haunt is one of the big deal cards in this matchup.
Now this is interesting here because Todd is the player on the play here, and we know that Jerry has Dissipate in his hand. So basically Todd could be leading Jerry into a trap here by playing the Restoration Angel and saying, hey man, I'm going to blink this Augur of Bolas. Do you want to counter this? And if Jerry does oblige to counter it, you know, Todd has the window open to play a Jace Memory Adept, which we saw him win the match, which we saw, Jerry win the match with. Now we see the contents of Todd's hand, and he does not have one, fortunately enough for Jerry.
But I mean, Jerry is put to a hard question there. Oh, wow. Did you see what was on that Augur?
I did.
To the bottom goes a Runechanter's Pike and a Jace Memory Adept. And a quick look at the deck. There are no shuffle effects. Those are going to be on the bottom.
Bottoms up.
Well, if you get enough Augurs going, you can push it up.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. In a unique way, you can push it up, as we see a Restoration Angel here from Jerry. Todd kind of going the damage route this game, or at least trying to go the damage route.
One of the things he's contemplating here is whether to rewind that and then still have his mana open. But a rewind is a valuable card in this matchup.
And also, I mean, rewind on his main phase could run face forward into a Dispel right now, which is what Jerry's representing.
Boom.
And you do see Dispel. So now the window's open for Jerry as he slams that Augur out of here.
And the untap. Oh, boy.
Now the window's open for Jerry to resolve Jace Memory Adept, but does he have it? And he doesn't, as we see just Restoration Angel come across, and a main phase Restoration Angel here.
There are only 2 Supreme Verdicts for these players between main and board, so establishing any board presence is a big deal.
And we know that Todd left his Supreme Verdict in the last game. We did see one. He discarded one to hand size. It'll be interesting to see if he did leave it in. I don't think the players re-sideboarded, as we see Thoughtscour reveal Dispel and Augur of Bolas. Jerry draws his card, another Restoration Angel. And Jerry's hand right now, Adrian, is 2 Cliff Trap Retreats, another Restoration Angel, and an Oblivion Ring. Neither player able to find the queen that is Jace Memory Adept.
Todd has the Sphinx Revelation. It looks like Snapcaster Mage. And it looks like a land, and I can't catch the last one. Jerry has a lot of land in his hand. 3 land and an angel.
2 lands.
2 land and an
Retreats,
angel.
an Oblivion Ring, and a Restoration
There
Angel.
we go. For those of you who are just joining us, this is round 10 of the Star City Games Open Series featuring the Invitational here in sunny Los Angeles. I'm Adrian Sullivan here with Cedric Phillips. You're watching Jerry Thompson and Todd Anderson play Game 3 of this very, very important match. They're both at the top of the standings right now, playing a 73-card mirror match of blue-white, white-red flash. Main phase, Restoration Angel from Jerry Thompson. Snapcaster. Some kind of counter spell. It's going to be a rewind. There it is.
And now Jerry tries to make his move with an Oblivion Ring, which is going to target Restoration Angel. Here come Restoration Angels, and now here comes Todd, the Restoration Angel of his own, blocking one of Jerry's. And now it's interesting that, you know, the last game that we saw between these players, it was an attack on the decks. And Todd trying to kill Jerry in time before Todd got decked. Now we see an attack on life totals as we're going back and forth and back and forth.
Todd attacks for 5. O-rings the O-ring to get back a angel. Flashes the Snapcaster, gets the unsummon for an angel, and leaves Todd with a better board presence, but tapped down pretty hard.
And now we see Jerry flooding really badly. He has another land in his hand, which is that Clifftop Retreat to go along with the Restoration Angel that Todd unsummoned. So only one mystery card here for Jerry. There is a Moorland Haunt among those lands, as we see a main phase Angel, but Jerry's in a bit of trouble here.
And that Moorland Haunt actually is very dangerous to an attack from Todd. He goes, draw 3, does that work? Tap out?
And Todd just says basically, you know, I know you don't have a counterspell in your hand, so I'm just going to draw these 3 cards, get this 3 life, and put my shields down for the moment being. So we'll see if Jerry can take advantage of this as he does flashback Think Twice.
Jerry running the new school Think Twice. Todd Anderson running the Time Spiral Think Twice. Augur of Bolas, one of the cards discovered. Augur finds Azo Charm. We put a Jace Memory Adept on the bottom of Jerry's library now.
And that's kind of interesting that one of the things that Augur of Bolas does not find is Planeswalkers. I think it'd be a little bit too good if it did. But, you know, with the interactions with Augur of Bolas, it's definitely going to find important cards. Think Twice, Thought Scour, Sphinx's Revelation. But the cards that it doesn't find are 2 of the more important cards. As we see, there's a Sphinx's Revelation. 2 of the more important cards that it doesn't find is 1, Jace Memory Adept, and 2, Runechanter's Pike.
Yep. And remember, Todd Anderson does have those cards buried deep on the bottom of his library right now. The only Pike and Jace Memory Adept on the very bottom of Todd's library.
Which, again, is something that we know, but something that Jerry doesn't. As we see Think Twice here from Todd.
Is that Sphinx, Snapcaster, is it Charm, and something?
Yes, that is. And that something is a Supreme Verdict.
There we go. Supreme Verdict, a very powerful card, but unfortunately for Todd, he is also committed to the board at this point. Think. And finds a Jace. Passes the turn. Jerry, Azo to draw a card. Think from the graveyard. Moorland Haunt to get a Spirit into play. Jerry, apparently one of the people who walked off with the spirits earlier, who has been making us not have spirits at the table.
So we're going to see the first half of the Think Twice here, draw an island for Jerry. We're going to see the second half. No, Jerry's going to decide, I'm going to play a land. I'm just going to say go. I'm not going to flashback Think Twice just yet. Maybe create a better board presence as we see Todd draw a Clifftop Retreat. And Todd going to take a look at Jerry's graveyard here, count the number of counter spells that Jerry has drawn, get a Snapcaster Mage count, that sort of thing.
Remember that Todd knows what Jerry is playing. If not card for card, at least within a very, very close count. Think. Untap. Draw. Augur of Bolas is drawn.
And we see that Jerry did draw one of his counterflux to go along with the Augur of Bolas, an island, and a Sphinx's Revelation. And we are going to see Augur of Bolas here, dangerous one, as he does draw a negate. Okay, so he did not bypass, another Jace Memory Adept, so that is still a live draw for Jerry, outside of the one that is second from the bottom on his deck.
And now Todd goes, the big card draw. Is this bait in order to try to push forth that Jace? I mean, it's one of those kinds of bait that you usually don't want to actually let happen. Whether it's bait or not, it's pretty scary to let a Sphinx for even 3 happen.
Yeah, and this is just an overpriced concentrate right now, but it's actually pretty important. The life total aspect of it, the life gain, is not really all that important, but the fact that Todd's going to get to see 3 more cards, but as we brought up, 3 cards deeper, 3 cards less to mill.
Todd untaps those 3 cards. You might say, oh, that was so terrible, he just drew 3 land. Well, you know what? Actually, he doesn't have to go through 3 draw phases of land.
Yeah. So now Todd making sure that he hits his land drop, super important in a control mirror, as we see Jerry rearranging his lands, likely considering either a Moorland Haunt or a Sphinx Revelation. It is going to be a Moorland Haunt, just further adding to his board and making things difficult for Todd. Jerry draws Rewind now. So now Jerry's hand is pretty stock full of counter magic, Adrian. He has a Rewind, he has a negate, he has a counterflux. Todd's not going to be able to win the war over Jace Memory Adept, and Jerry may be able to, as we saw him draw an Izzet Charm as well now.
Which, it's a bad counterspell with this much mana out, but the wars that can happen, there actually can be real wars where that Izzet Charm can literally finish a counter war off.
Yep.
And we see another Sphinx, this time for 4. Jerry's like, yeah, you got cards. Land, Augur. I think it was land, Augur, but it might have been land, Dissipate. I can't quite tell. Augur it was. And Todd augers pushing Rune Chanter's Pike ever closer to the top. Counterflux.
Counterflux here from Todd, moving an Oblivion Ring to the bottom.
Look at how gummed up this board is. This is exactly why we were seeing earlier Thought Scours hitting the other player's library.
Yeah. Just attacking for damage in this matchup isn't incredibly realistic. I mean, between Moorland Haunt and these augers that run into each other, and if you don't draw your Rune Chanter's Pike, it's very, very difficult to get through with actual damage. And with both players gaining so much life between Sphinx of Revelation and even what people call the hidden mode on Azorius Charm, you know, it's difficult to kill people with damage in this match in the sideboarded games. In game one, of course, it's reasonable because that's what the players have to do, and you really have to grind them down. But in the sideboarded games, you can definitely tell that both players are trying to mill one another out.
Okay, he lays Jace. He knows Jerry has a counterflux, and Jerry expends it. And Todd says go.
Jerry draws a Rune
my
Chanter's
goodness.
Pike.
And Jerry knows that Todd has a counterflux. He's like, I don't want to have that counterflux hit my Pike. How can I get that counterflux out of his hand?
Yeah, the question is, does he or doesn't he? Because, again, I mean, Rune Chanter's Pike does change things for Jerry a little bit here because, you know, he can suit up a token, he can suit up a Restoration Angel, but, I mean, at the same time, it's like, does he want to do this attacking with these cards and get, you know, something Azorius Charmed, and, you know, that's basically getting him Time Walked, and, you know, what exactly does he want to accomplish with Rune Chanter's Pike? Does he want to accomplish anything at all with it? Maybe he wants to cast it and get it countered. Maybe he's thinking to himself, this card doesn't even matter right now. Like, you know, maybe in turns 3 through 9 it would have mattered, but where we are in this game and how small our libraries are, yeah, I would love for you to counter the spell so I can have an easier time resolving Jace Memory Adept.
Our counts on the libraries. Jerry Thompson, 21 cards. Todd Anderson, 18 cards.
Lucy, Jerry is going to play in Restoration Angel end of turn, blink an Augur Bolus, and we saw him move 3 cards to the bottom, 2 lands, and a Jace Memory Adept. So both of Jerry's Jace Memory Adept are on the bottom of his library. You see the top card of Todd's library is a Jace Memory Adept, and we know the other one is the second from the bottom for him. So the trump card, as it were, are both on the bottom of these players' libraries, or in Todd's case, one in the graveyard.
Jerry untaps. Is it Charm?
Discarded for Todd.
Yep.
And that's not too surprising either, because as good of a card as we see Rune Chanter's Pike here does draw out the counterflux, as good as a card as Is It Charm is, it almost does next to nothing right now, Adrian.
Yep.
You don't want to draw 2, discard 2 in this game state. And as you said, it's unlikely that the Spell Pierce effect is going to counter something.
And Jerry takes 2 from a Hallowed Fountain, which is kind of incredible given how much mana he has.
Yeah.
Todd draws. 17 cards left. I believe I see a Dispel, Supreme Verdict ×2.
It is kind of funny with how clogged these boards have gotten, and you know what this game is coming down to with the library milling type effects. That, you know, the card I'm thinking of right now is like a Banefire type effect that could just go upstairs uncounterable. But this is going to try to play that role, as we see a Dispel here from Todd, countering a Sphinx Revelation, or at least making an attempt.
And I think that Jerry might be using this as a kind of duress.
Yeah, that felt like bait to me.
19.
Unsummon Jerry's draw step. Todd draws a Restoration Angel, which is oddly enough, I don't want to. Actually, it's not irrelevant because of Snapcaster Mage.
Yep.
Blinking the Snapcaster Mage can flash back a counterflux, so that is actually a relevant draw step, as Jerry draws an Azorius Charm. Players very, very content to say draw go, as I see Adrian to my right here keeping track of the count of libraries right now.
The count is currently 15 cards for Todd Anderson, 18 cards for Jerry Thompson.
Augur of Bolas doesn't find anything, so it doesn't subtract from the count for Todd, as Jerry draws a Snapcaster Mage for his turn.
17-15.
Thought
Thought Scour.
That'll even her up.
Supreme Verdict. The first move is made.
And an uncounterable one at that.
Unsummon on an Angel.
Will Todd choose to fight over this?
And
says,
everybody
fine.
dies, including those spirits.
Again, remember, Adrian, that Jerry is the one with Moorland Haunt, not Todd, as we see Jerry activate a Moorland Haunt right away. Jerry can actually start attacking now. Even though Todd is at 21, it is a new avenue to victory that wasn't present beforehand, as we see Restoration Angel here from Todd.
And Jerry doesn't bother. He doesn't want to fall into that possible trap. We see a Thought Scour from Todd. It works. Todd goes to 13, Jerry goes to 14 cards.
Jerry turns over his Sphinx's Revelation, which is not horribly relevant right now, and a Counterflux, which is the more relevant of the two. Again, Jerry not attacking with the Spirit Token, A, because he doesn't want to run into a Restoration Angel, but B, Jerry is the lower of the two players, so his life total is much more at stake in this game.
Untap for Todd. 13 to 12.
Todd draws a Sulfur Falls. Jerry has a Restoration Angel. Jerry is going to activate a Moorland Haunt. As you can see, both players are moving along very quickly here.
Think twice. Wow, 12 to 11. Flash it back, 12 to 10.
Todd's draw step, 12 to 9.
You remember, he knows that there is a pike down there.
And there's a Jace Memory Adept down there too. And that's what he looks like he's digging for. Again, I don't think that pike is going to be terribly relevant now, as you see Jerry able to just churn out Spirit Tokens, and Todd's Supreme Verdict is gone. Yes, he could Snapcaster it back, but I think that we are past that point, as we see Todd draws the Runechanter's
Now remember, the next card is likely Jace Memory Adept.
Yep. And we do see the other Supreme Verdict in Todd's hand, in case, again, he does need to push that reset button. And there's a Runechanter's Pike from Todd.
Todd can do roughly 37 million damage with any creature he equips with it.
Yeah, every creature will be lethal now from the Runechanter's Pike. But again, Jerry's shields are pretty far up because of Moorland Haunt and the Restoration Angel in play. Plenty of spirits, plenty of creatures in Jerry's graveyard. As you see Jerry counting away here. The scary thing is that Jace Memory Adept, as we see Todd equip, attack, Jerry blocks.
Counterflux in Todd Anderson's hand. Snapcaster in Todd Anderson's hand. Jerry draws a land.
Jerry's still looking.
Now, this deep in, both these players know each other's libraries. They're probably doing a quick count, seeing what kind of counter magic's left, how many Jaces are left, how many, I guess those are the two cards I'd be counting for, is counter magic and Jaces.
I'd also be looking for Thought Scour.
That's fair as well. That's totally fair. Thought Scour, remember, is only a +1 on the land count effectively, because you do have to draw a card.
As we see, Todd is going to cast a Snapcaster Mage here. He moved a Thought Scour to the front of his graveyard, and there you see it now. He does mill 2 cards, Oblivion Ring and Thought Scour for Jerry. He draws that Jace Memory Adept that we knew about. He also knew about. Jerry does not know about. And Todd is going to draw a card for his turn right now as well.
These guys are even up on their libraries now.
And there's the island.
And I believe that a Jace for either player is lethal immediately.
Todd immediately blocks. Are we going to have the fight? Is Todd going to pull the trigger right now and hope that Counterflux is enough to defend himself? You see a Counterflux, you see a Snapcaster Mage as well. Todd has a boatload of mana in play, but likely going to be able to cast all the spells in his hand. But does Jerry have more permission than Todd does?
And all of the counts. He's trying to get this completely down to the odds. What are the chances that Jerry has that Counterflux? If it's not a Counterflux, Todd will win the game. He knows it. He goes for it.
And here we go.
Now, to be fair, Jerry can have multiple counter spells to try to fight the Jace.
Yep.
And we see the Snapcaster there. Jerry knows that this game is on the line here. He opens with Snapcaster Mage, draws the Counterflux. There's no point fighting any further with that. So on to the next stage. He continues with, it looks like the Rewind is going to come next. Rewind, looking for his last 2 mana. Rewind draws the Negate. Still a Snapcaster in Todd's hand. Negate on your Negate.
You see Jerry organizing the stack here.
I kind of wonder if allowing the Counterflux to resolve was a mistake.
Well, the Counterflux is uncounterable, so...
No, but you can still respond to it.
What do you mean?
If it's on the stack, it can't be Snapcastered.
Okay, sure. That's a good point. So this is Snapcaster Mage here.
And there's that counterflux on top, waiting. I think Jerry's going to be forced to use a Izzet Charm to draw a card. Well, maybe not. Does he have a Dispel in his hand?
The Izzet Charm is actually going to be... boy, this is tough. Jerry says okay.
And that is awesomely lucky for him. Todd does not use the Overload because you cannot use Overload from a Snapcaster Mage, which means then... Oh, it's an Azorius Charm. He draws with Azorius Charm, hoping to find an answer.
Finds There's his own Jace. Up of his own.
Okay, now he's going to have to Izzet Charm himself in order to try to find something, some card. He's counting. Is there anything even left? This is a terribly desperate move.
1, 2.
Oh, that is it. Yeah, by allowing the counterflux to resolve, Todd Anderson has it in his yard, and Jerry Thompson lets it get Snapcaster during that huge fight. Wow. That was what we call some magic.
That's a good game.
Yeah. There's just going to be all kinds of great matches like that all day today.
That was a good game. It's been a long time since we've seen a counter war like that before. That was a good game. I don't think that... So I understand what you're saying with, like, by letting Counterflux resolve, it gives Todd the opportunity to flash it back via Snapcaster Mage.
Right.
But I do believe that there was a Dispel in Todd's graveyard. So if he does Snapcaster back the Dispel, Izzet Charm still can't counter it. But
right.
He can easily pay for the 2. He was able to pay for the 2 with Counterflux. And I think Jerry is still in the same situation. I think it's just a case of Todd had more ways to fight than Jerry actually did.
You're correct. There was a Dispel there.
Yeah.
So... it actually does not matter then at that point.
Yeah, I think I'm almost positive there's a Dispel in Todd's graveyard.
Yeah.
You know, we obviously didn't have the graveyard fan out in front of us, but I'm almost sure there was a Dispel cast earlier in the game.
Yeah.
Todd had access to one in his graveyard.
Yep.
And then that's what